Junior doctors in the UK have begun a 4-day walkout. They're demanding a 35% pay raise. The UK's National Health Service says England, Wales, and Northern Ireland could see up to 350,000 appointments and operations canceled as a result of the strike.
For the next 26 hours, nurses across England will be on strike, bringing significant disruption to the health service. It is the third walkout by members of the Royal College of Nursing Union in just 4 months.
Now, across the UK, several work sectors are being hit by strike action in the run-up to Christmas, including rail, air and post. Ambulance workers at the GMB union across large parts of England and all of Wales next Wednesday has been postponed. They'll walk out on the 11th of January instead.
Hi, so we've noticed that there's been a lot of strikes and protests lately and people aren't happy about it. So what we've decided to do is talk to students and staff at a college in Manchester about what they think about all the events that have been happening throughout the years.
I'm Eve and I'm a learning support tutor at Access Creative College.
I'm Michael O'Keefe and I teach creative media at Access Creative College.
Hi, I'm Josh and I'm a teacher here in Manchester.
I'm Maisie Short. I'm a student.
I'm Nico Banks, a student at Access Creative College.
What do you think about protests?
I hate them. I think that they just limit everything. They are for the weak-minded people.
I think they're a very good thing, aren't they? I think that it's everyone's right to protest, depending on if it's a peaceful protest. I don't support violent protests, only peaceful protests, but it is our right to protest, isn't it? Otherwise, what's the point living in a society, if you will? It's democracy, isn't it? Go on.
I think protests are necessary and important for people to express their problems with sort of the way that the government is running the country and for other kind of issues like with society.
I hate the protests. The protests are horrible. I don't approve of any of the protests from any union ever. Because it's bad for the people. Because when it stops the production, then it really upsets the people in charge. So those stupid unions get their rights and their workers' justice, but it ruins all of our lives and it's horrible and no one should ever protest.
Do you think all these protests are necessary?
Yeah, I think protests are necessary. If people are protesting, it implies that there's something wrong that they think should be fixed. So, yeah, I don't think there's too much of an unnecessary protest.
I think they're so unnecessary. I don't think it's necessary at all. I think if you want better rights, you just suck it up and hope that someone gives it to you. And why would you ever demand to take it yourself? It's horrible.
Someone's obviously feels strongly about something that they would need to have a protest, so you should be able to protest.
What strikes have you been affected by and why? What strikes have you...
Train strikes.
The oil people.
The train strikes.
Yeah, I can complain about the train strikes all day. How have I been affected by that? I couldn't get to college, could I? I actually couldn't get to college. There was no way for me to get here because of those train strikes, and that annoyed me.
Because they, the oil people just block my way to work every day. I can't get through the motorway because they are there standing on the motorway. Although they call it peaceful protesting, it just ruins my life completely.
Why do you think teachers are on strike?
I think that teachers should go on strike. I think that it's, you know, they're a profession that's like really important for the next generation, and that they should be more well respected, both in terms of how much they're getting paid and the work environment, because they do a lot of sort of unrecognised overtime that never really gets noticed.
They don't feel like they're being paid fairly for the work that they're doing, and that their working conditions aren't the best.
There's been an erosion of the pay over a number of years, and they've taken effectively a pay cut.
If you could go on strike, would you?
No, I would never start. I would never. I am committed to giving away my labor for any cost. And, yep.
I mean, I'm quite content with my current place of work. You know, I don't know, maybe if the conditions were a bit more unfair, then I'd go and protest. But right now, I think I'm all right.
I think so, because overall, I think that if teachers were getting sort of better compensation for the work they do, there would be a higher standard of education as a whole.
I wouldn't personally, but if the issue is so important, I could say yes, I can see why people would find it worthwhile. Because if people aren't listening, and if teachers are working in bad conditions, then it negatively affects the education, so it's worth temporarily affecting that education to improve it overall, I think.
Why not? I mean, there's always a disruption to something, and if you happen to work in something that is going to affect someone, I think it's unfair that the people who worked hardest over the period of the COVID, and they had to go to work all of the time, should be now penalised.
We're heading down to the University of Manchester as they're currently having a rent strike, and we're going to talk to some of the students there to see exactly what they are protesting for.
Yeah, and we're here today in solidarity with A, the people who are on rent strike, and B, the people who were, including myself, who were forcibly evicted from their occupation. So it was we were all sat in the uni accommodation in protest of the rent strike, and we were dragged out of that building there. Some of us by our arms, and it was very unpleasant.
What are the current living conditions like?
In halls, not very good. They're pretty miserable. It varies massively from hall to hall, from accommodation to accommodation. Some of them are just like tiny little rooms. You know, I've seen bathrooms bigger than some of the accommodation rooms, and some of them are a little bit bigger. But none of them are nice. Do you know what I mean? None of them are pleasant. Some of them have sofas and TVs. Most don't. Oak House, I think, was designed by a prison architect, and if you ever have a look in Oak House, you can tell. So yeah, it's pretty dire.
What are you looking to get out of the rent strikes?
So this round in the last round of rent strike, we went on rent strike 3 years ago, and we won £10.8 million back in the hands of students from a 2-week occupation. Obviously, this has been going on a lot longer than that, but we want a rent rebate for all. So that means money off the money they were meant to pay for rent this year for all students living in halls, absolutely, regardless of if you get the maximum loan or the minimum loan. We want also the university to commit to capping rent, and so every year basically they've raised a rent, sometimes often above inflation, so we want them to cap rent and say they're not going to raise it anymore for at least 5 years, and we want them to cap it at the money, at the price it would be with the rent rebate, if that makes sense. So say it's 140 quid, we want it to be 140 quid a week, we want it to be 110 quid a week, and we want them to cap it there, essentially. Another demand is a cost of living payment. So we want every single student to get £1,500 from the University of Manchester, and that is the maintenance loan, which is the money you get for food and rent and stuff, in line with inflation. So we've lost, because of inflation, over £1,500 in maintenance loans, which means like rent isn't covered by the maintenance loan and all that kind of stuff. So we want a cashback rebate, which we know the University of Manchester can afford because it's sitting on a £1.5 billion cash reserves. That's unrestricted reserve, so they can basically get that out tomorrow. I think in 2020 it made more money than both Manchester City and Manchester United football clubs combined. So it's a phenomenally wealthy university. So we just want the money. And the last one is in solidarity with the UCU, who are the University and Colleges Union, and they are the lecturers who are currently have been on strike over the last week, and the union nationally has been on strike, so colleges as well as universities. We want their demands as well because we stand in full solidarity with all staff members as well.